Daniel Corey coming at you from DangerKatt Central, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 4 of Makers, where I speak with artists who shape and make culture. I want to introduce this week's guest, Jim Wilson. Hey, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me, Daniel.
Absolutely, man. I'm very excited about this. So,
me too.
Yeah, cool, man. So, Jim is an insanely talented musician. So, he's played with so many great artists, as well as being a solo artist himself. And he's played with Rollins Band, Mother Superior, Sparks, has toured with Emmylou Harris. Currently bassist and vocalist with Daniel Lanois Heavy Sun band. He's guitarist, vocalist, co-writer with Pearl. Guitarist, lead vocalist, writer with Motor Sister, as well as his own solo albums in which he collaborates with producer and Heartbreakers drummer Phil Jones. Lots of stuff. So he also hosts his own online radio show, The Vinyl Shelf. He's got a book releasing titled Occupation Rock and Roll. So without further ado, Jim Wilson, welcome to Makers. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, hanging in, It's
exactly.
Actually, yeah, it's been a busy week. It's been busy since I started doing the show. I just had my friends, the Key of F, on. They released a new single, and that's out. And this has been a great opportunity to.
I've been super busy too. I mean, same thing. There's just more time to do things that you want to do, which leads to other creative stuff. So it's been good, and not to mention songwriting time. Just a little more time to take a walk and clear your head.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
But I wish we were playing. I mean, that's no. I'm just doing the best that I can, and the radio show is another great thing that helps me. I got 2 shows on the air. One is just, not just, but it's an hour-long show of old radio shows that I've collected from different years and, radio broadcast LPs. Yeah. So that I get to do that on weekend afternoons, and then at midnight I do 2 hours of just playing vinyl. So, I choose what I'm going to play beforehand. And, usually it's just things that I've been playing around the house. So just fun to have time to play records.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as creative people, we get ensconced in things, we're we're both saying right now. I'm doing so much with this show. I've got my personal writing, I'm songwriting. I got, I work in broadcast news. But then there's those few moments when you sit down just to eat dinner and watch TV where you're like, nothing's going on.
Yeah, totally.
What's going on?
I get bored with TV. Just, if I sit down too long to watch a screen, I either start to fall asleep or I just get bored. And, I love great movies and great entertainment, but it's not my number one thing to do. I'd rather just put on some music and, stare at an album cover for 40 minutes.
Cool. So we're gonna talk a lot about some of your past and your upcoming projects, but first I want to jump in and ask you the first question that I ask everybody on this show. Since
Beatles.
Yeah. There you go. All right, and we're done. But since the show is called Makers, what sort of art do you make, and what do you think is your role in shaping culture at large?
Well, interesting question. I think maybe I'm finally able to say songwriter. I've avoided that for many years. I mean, I've always been a songwriter, but being in a band, you always felt more like a guitar player or a singer, which I am as well. But I feel like if it wasn't for the songs, then, if I sucked, I wouldn't be sitting here, So I think that when I hear something back, I don't listen to the stuff. I have an iPod that I still put on random sometimes and listen to things. And a Rollins Band song came on recently. And, because I don't hear them, I sit there and listen like somebody who had nothing to do with it, Yeah. So that's fun. And they all hold up to me. There's nothing that's embarrassing to me musically or whatever. So I think singer-songwriter, as James Taylor as that sounds, I think that's probably...
That's the, you're citing the kind of the 70s golden era of singer-songwriters there, pretty much. You're evoking.
Yeah, I could have said Lieber and Stoller, but there's only one of me.
Yeah, you're an upfront guy. You're in front of you're behind the mic in front of the stage there, in front of the crowd. So
yeah. Which is, I guess I've been doing that so long that just comes naturally, like playing live. So that seems more like a reward of all the putting music together and recording and mixing and mastering and trying to get it released and all that kind of stuff. And then you have, you know, a 50, 60-minute show where you just put everything you got into it. And that's, you know, that's more exciting than being frustrated by sitting down and writing a song. But, you know, we just don't get to do that enough, I think. And then it turns into that cycle of having to put out new music in order to go play, you know, so you're always thinking about the next record. And times like this, when, you know, it gives you time to sort your thoughts out and get some things together. Phil Jones and I have been recording, you know, ever since we finished the last one, and we've probably got 20 songs now, but it's, we've just been having fun getting together once a week or so, and I just bring songs over, and usually they turn out really well because Phil just has the same influence as I do, you know, and it's just, and plus we only have to have two of us in the studio, so that's kind of nice. We can just work with the two of us and spend a couple hours on these songs, and the list just keeps getting longer and longer. But that's exciting, you know, and not to jump ahead, you know, we were talking about the past, so I'll let you finish the question before I start talking about Motor Sister too. But there's been a lot of new song ideas going around.
Great. Yeah, I know, like personally, like at the beginning of all this, I wrote a novel and got that done, and that was you know, I was very happy about that accomplishment. And I'm like, I'm gonna concentrate on recording some of my music now. But then I find I just divert away from that, and I'm writing more songs, and it's just like I'm being fed more just with that than the. I'm not a great self-producer in the recording realm, anyways. So
yeah, me neither. I'd like to hear your stuff.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll treat you to it sometime.
yeah. I mean, I know, and it's always like rough mixes for me too until they're finished. I don't like to spend a lot of time on my own music. I like to record it and listen to it and make sure that, you know, I think I sang it well enough or whatever. And then I just kind of let it go because it's always time for the next one, you know, and maybe that's what keeps you going too. Just thinking, I haven't done my best one yet, so wait until it's done, you know.
Just like I was saying, when I sit down for dinner or something, I'm like, oh, so what am I doing? Nothing. There's nothing happening. It's that whole thing. It's that whole restlessness, you know.
Yeah. That's the artist. Yep, the artist in you.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and tell. I didn't know if I was going to tell this story, but I had kind of a funny story I was going to share with you. It was actually before we met. I saw you play with Daniel at El Rey for, it was Flesh and Machine, that album. And 2013, I think. And you guys did such a huge, rousing, amazing rendition of The Maker at the end of that show. And I was like, my wife and I and our friend were right up on the stage, so we were right there, and the sound was just shearing our faces off, you know. And it was a Sunday night. It was a very exciting into the weekend. The next morning, I'm sitting at my desk and I'm editing news transcripts, and I'm just like, oh, it's so dull. after that, you know, I'm just like,
well, that's what keeps us going, you know. That's what keeps. And that's why, you know, the same thing I was talking about, having time to listen to music and stuff, that's what makes me want to create good art is, you know, studying the classics and listening to things that move me. And it's easy to get into a thing looking for inspiration in things that, you know, are just kind of like B+ music or whatever. But I like to get into the artists that, you know are tried and true, be it Johnny Cash or the Stones or whatever, and spend more time getting into that catalog and finding what I've missed and things like that. And that makes me feel like, you know, if you got something to say, you better say it, because now's the time, you know.
Yeah. No, this is great. This is what this is what Makers is all about. So we're talking about making here. I'm like.
And speaking of the Maker, also, to me, I feel that way when I play that song on stage with Daniel every time, because not only is it different every time, but the crowd, everybody loves that song, and it's got such a feeling to it that if you stop and listen to the words, then you're just, you know, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. So. You know, we've played that one with Emmylou with Daniel, and with Dave Matthews, I played that one with Daniel, and one night after we played it, I think we were in Canada and the place was just exploding. And I told Daniel, I said, if this was the only song you ever wrote, this would be better than anybody else. You know what I mean? If you just wrote The Maker, you'd be in the league of, you know, Tim Hardin or, you know, great songwriters or whatever. Not, and he's done so much more, but that's a song to be proud of, you know?
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Sorry.
Yeah, and you know, it's a song. It's like, I don't remember the first time I heard it. I remember though when I watched Sling Blade and the first time, and it was actually I caught it on VHS the first time because it was when that movie first was released for the Oscar season of that year. It was in very limited release, and I was in Orlando at the time in college. My wife and I were dating in college. And so I think that didn't really hit the theaters until later. But anyway, we caught it on VHS the first time. And of course, Daniel had done the soundtrack to that movie. And then The Maker was the end credits song.
Yes.
And that's the first time I remember hearing it that I recognized, oh, wait, it's this song.
Yeah. I think mine was Willie Nelson. I really got into that version a long time ago. And that kind of brought me into the Maker world, you know, of all the people. Even Jerry Garcia did a version of it as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember seeing when Willie Nelson was on Letterman. He did that, and he came out for an interview first, and he said, well, I'm going to do this song, The Maker. It's by Daniel Lanois. And then they did the song, and I had never seen Daniel before, so I didn't know who he was. But there was this guitarist in the band wearing this hat, and this guy, he's playing fingerstyle, and he's playing all these.
He was mysterious. He's always mysterious, yeah.
I know, like, who's this dude, man? And
he changed the look too, because you know you could see him in like, you know, the Unforgettable Fire footage when they're recording that. I think it's Unforgettable. And he's, you know, and then when he gets into his kind of gypsy Indian look days, and you know, and we've been talking about all getting nudie suits and getting all fixed up in, you know, vintage nudie suits for the Heavy Sun thing, but we'll see. I hope so.
I hope so too. But but that song, I feel like it, like I said, I can't remember the first time I heard it. It just feels like it had always kind of been there for me or something, because I'd heard it, that was the first time with Sling Blade. I was like, that song.
Yep.
Yeah. So it, but yeah, that song is the thing. It's just, it's in the.
I mean, even if he's just strumming his guitar when we're playing live, and you know he's playing a G or an F, whatever key he decides to do in that night, and nobody knows what's happening. All he has to do is go, oh, and the place just goes.
Yeah. That song is in the fabric of the world. It's one of those.
Yeah. Even when we play Zebulon in those, you know, small places too, we always end up doing the Maker because we have to. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a prayer. It's usually at the end. It's a prayer.
And it goes deeper than that too, because we've had conversations about it, and I've looked at the Maker as a fully spiritual song, you know, to me, and it is, you know, but he has other ways of looking at it as well, and you know, it's not just about God, quote unquote God or whatever, you know, so you have to ask him about it, but he, you know, that song is deep. All the songs from that first record are, you know, the lyrics so good.
Yeah, I know. It was and so the Akadi album that was on the original Daniel's album, that was 30 years ago last year. It was 89. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
water from there too. That's just, you know, and I, you know, this is really all my years of playing with Daniel. This Heavy Sun project has been the most that I've been in the recording studio with him. I've done tons of demos with Daniel, and I've done, you know, say we filmed something for a TV show or something and we went back in and fixed some things up. We do stuff like that all the time. I've recorded, but this is the first time that I've actually, you know, been in like the U2 trenches, you know, like everybody huddled up and watching these songs come alive and seeing him come up with amazing lyrics again too, just, you know, and Rocco is really great at just on the spot kind of, we need a line here, and he'll just say, what about, you know, and some like crazy spiritual thing comes out of his mouth, you know, and so it's just been a great experience watching that happen. And not to talk about Heavy Sun already, but Johnny Shepard, you know, is such a great singer, and he's so schooled in the gospel world that he knows harmonies immediately. Sometimes we can find, because everything's basically 4-part harmonies, sometimes we can all find our harmonies without Johnny's help, but sometimes it's like, Johnny, what am I supposed to be singing? You know, because the melodies have to follow each other, and you can get lazy and just sing like, you know, one part the same as the other guy. But we've just been learning so much about singing, and it's really helped me to, in the studio, doing my own stuff and having less doubts about singing. Like sometimes you just feel, you know, one day you don't feel as good as the other, and I kind of got over that, you know, and just kind of just sing, you know, that's what's going to happen anyway, and the stress isn't doing you any good to get that. So it's such a vocal band that's been great.
Yeah.
And, you know, on the other side, I got a kick-ass rock and roll band that, you know, just finished recording the music for the next record. It'll be finished in November. We're doing all the vocals for Motor Sister, and we're going to cut a bunch of covers for Metal Blade Records also. They want some covers, fun covers for B-sides and projects and stuff, and we made a list. So it's a lot easier listening to covers than it is having to play them, even if you know it really well. You know, so I've been just really paying attention to some of those songs. We're just going to have fun with that. But our original album is, I can't wait for people to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, like I said, just a lot of stuff. And it's all like, you know, so close to being done. And even my book, which is pretty much done. If I went tonight and looked at my book stuff, I'd probably start rewriting stuff, you know, but last time I checked, I was pretty happy. And again, my publisher wants to wait until the Motor Sister record comes out, so we have a reason to push it and, you know, mention it in interviews and things like that. So everything's just kind of on that, you know, 70-yard line. Yeah.
You got Heavy Sun on the cusp, Motor Sister on the cusp. You got your book on the cusp, man. It's all. Yeah. It's gonna be good when it's all out in the world, though, right?
It's true. And there's other things that's happening. The EP that came out digitally last year, Rocker's Delight, is coming out on vinyl. It should be here any day now. The original order said I will have the order by November 9th, and I called like, you know, a week ago, and she's like, it'll be there by November 9th, you know. So I'm just waiting every day just to have that.
Phil Jones collaboration.
It's a Phil Jones collaboration, 4 songs. As soon as we finished Now Playing, we kept recording and had a good one called All Wrong, All Right. And then we kind of looked back at the other songs that we did for Now Playing, and, you know, out of like 6 other ones, it was like there were 3 that were just, why didn't these come out? You know, because you just don't have enough room on the record. So the idea of an EP came about, and also one of the songs called Hot, H-O-T-T, I asked Bernard Fowler, the Stones singer, background singer, to come by and sing it with me, because, you know, we've been hanging out, and I wrote some songs for hopefully an upcoming solo project of his, and we've played together. We were rehearsed together from a gig that didn't happen, you know, but we've been kind of getting close. So the song had a Sam and Dave kind of harmony thing, and I could have done it myself, but I just asked him, and he came by and just nailed it. So that's the highlight of the EP, is having Bernard on there. But there's some other great, Spooner Oldham plays keyboards again on a track, and Hutch Hutchinson is on bass on one track too, from Bonnie Raitt's band. And I'm probably leaving somebody else out, but it's just like, you know, it's Rocker's Delight. It's 4 upbeat, heavy ones. And, you know, that was another reason that things got left off the first record with Phil, was just because variety is good. And if we already had one big rocker, we didn't want, you know, it overwhelmed with that or whatever. So there's a really good one called I Know, which is like as heavy as anything I've done. And that was one of the first days that I ever recorded with Phil. So that's why that one got left behind, because other stuff came about after that. Anyway, it's a 10-inch gold vinyl EP, and it'll be here any day. You get some bonuses if you pre-order it. There's the plug.
All right, cool, man. Cool. I love all the music you make, and you know, your solo records are wonderful. I have a Now Playing on vinyl, which you gave me earlier this year, but I also got it on iTunes, so just so I would be able to say that I purchased it, that you got money from me.
Excellent. Well, no, thank you. I thought you were going to say you got it on 8-track, and I was going to be like, where'd you find that?
No. That's going to be your Kickstarter campaign, maybe.
Yeah.
Sell the player and the cassette.
Right. Actually, you don't even have to make. It could just be blank. You just put a label on it, and people wouldn't know the difference because no one's going to play it anyway.
There you go.
Or you just make one, and the tape's already broken because it's going to break at one point. But no, thank you. And it's been really nice just having that outlet because I love rock and roll. I love the Ramones. I love Led Zeppelin. I love Kiss. I love Cheap Trick. That's, every Saturday night, that's what I do. Van Halen or Def Leppard or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I love all that stuff. But I also like, Otis Redding and Todd Rundgren and John Lennon, other things that it's just really given me, especially with Phil, my first solo record, which is before I met Phil, and I pretty much did it myself with drummer Steve Nister, who's played with Daniel too. And there's a cut with Sparks on there. So, that was just kind of my introduction. I wanted to do something different than Mother Superior. I didn't want to make a record that sounded like Mother Superior or...
That was your band previous, like you were Mother Superior, then Rollins Band, right? And then... Yeah.
Well, Henry took on Mother Superior, as did Daniel in the very beginning. We were lucky then because we were a trio and we were a close band. And when Henry, he produced one of our records before we played with him. Mm-hmm. And his old Rollins Band was they were having some troubles, that same stuff we've been talking about. And he just scooped the three of us up and we were going to call it something else. We went from Henry Rollins and Mother Superior, and then there was like Harms and like all these different, as many names we can come up with. And then the manager said, if you call it Rollins Band, you can go on the road tomorrow and, act like nothing happened. So, and then the first tour that we did was Mother Superior opening for Rollins Band, which was insane. It was like, sweating your ass off twice in a row. Yeah, just like, But then Daniel saw us play at the Troubadour with Henry Rollins and just invited us over to jam. By that time, our original drummer was married with kids and, he was having a hard time with the family life versus the, on the road 8 months a year and, coming home to no money because you sent your money home to the family thing,
Mm-hmm.
So that was hard. So he left the band, and then that kind of freed me up because we continued for a bit and we got crazy, success in Spain and signed to a couple French labels. So there was a bunch of European tours, but it was hard, it's all van traveling and really just working hard to have people hear your music. And you had diehards that are just so into it that you do it for them, and you think, if this guy is that into it, there's got to be other people that are into it too that I don't know, Yeah. So that keeps you going, and that drive kept me going. But then when Daniel did the Emmylou tour, and he asked me if I wanted to play bass, and Black Dub before that as well. So that was a whole other thing. I mean, started playing bass for the first time and meeting people that didn't know who I was, Daniel's fans and things, and he was just saying like, wow, you're a great bass player, and that's a trip to me, and I take that as a huge compliment too, because, it's easy to just play guitar on bass or, as Daniel says, just play like, not, but I'm always trying to, I can't play the bass line unless I've got something I can feel and remember and get into. So man, it's just, I've been really lucky to have all these opportunities and have all these ways to just get it out. And that's why I don't worry about songwriting with Daniel. I don't push. Mm-hmm. I respect those guys, and Johnny comes from the gospel world, so he already knows what he wants to do. And like I said, Rocco comes up with ideas and lyrics, and I add things, but I don't push because I have so many other things. Mm-hmm. I just want to be part of that music, and whatever I can add bass playing wise or vocally, then that's, I'm happy to be there.
Cool, man.
He released it. He sent out the new press release I saw this morning, and it's just like a little blurb that Daniel wrote, just trying to describe our sound or whatever. And I was just honored. It says at the top of the page, the Heavy Sun Orchestra R, and my name's listed first, you know, and that is obviously a gift from him, because my name should be listed last, because like they already had Heavy Sun, before they were called Heavy Sun. Rocco, Johnny, and Daniel were already starting to do stuff, and I was in Motor Sister World and, you know, doing other things. And when they finally called me over, then that's when I became a permanent thing. But there were a few, not now that the record's finished, you know, I'm on everything, but there were a few songs that I had to catch up at the beginning, because they had 3 or 4, and I was, you know, and then there was also 3 or 4 new ones they were working on. So, you know, Daniel's looking at me for lyrics, and I'm like, I haven't even heard this one yet. But it's been great.
Oh, wow, man. Yeah, so much. So much.
And yeah, I've been loving it, because Daniel has a really cool Crown Vic that he's given to me to use right now. So I've been just cruising around Hollywood with, like, you know, it's painted all black, and people look at me, they either think I'm a cop, or they think like, wow, that's a crazy looking cop or something, because they're
narc.
It's fun.
Nice.
And I've been really enjoying listening to the radio, because I have the choice to listen to whatever I want, anytime I want, all the time. So it's actually been nice to turn on, even if you know, a crappy song comes on, at least if I hear, you know, who can I pick on? If I hear The Weeknd or something, I can go, okay, that's The Weeknd, just so I kind of know what they sound like, or if I think that's okay. Or sometimes if I hear a song, I just listen, if I don't know who it is, and kind of say, oh, this sucks, or she's pretty good. And then I find out who it is, and then it keeps it on my radar, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm still trying to keep up with it. And as you know, it's hard though, because for songwriting, it's like, especially with my solo stuff, but many times with Motor Sister and Mother Superior, I would always get this 70s tag, you know, oh, classic rock, which it is, I understand. But I'm always confused by what people expect. Like, you know, am I supposed to sound like Post Malone now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it you know, it doesn't make any sense to me, the people that chase other people's sounds or whatever. So I'm sticking with rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, do what you do, you know? It's like, with my
and I don't mind, and most people don't mean that as a bad thing, but like, you know, sometimes I'll get a review for something I wrote, and somebody says, if you like Grand Funk and Boston, and it's like, oh no, you know, thank you. And you know what? The Boston records sound incredible. So yeah. I'll take that, and I'll take it for that.
Yeah, yeah. You probably didn't even think about that when you were...
Right, no, it's just guitar, bass, and drums, and, you know, maybe there's a bit of, some of the melodies might be a little more classic in their way. I listen to a lot of British 60s and 70s music, more so than American stuff. Like, I love Roy Wood and The Move. I mean, he's one of my, as a songwriter, he's just, I can't even understand what he's doing half the time, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, the Faces, the Small Faces, and the Stones, and all those great bands. So I know that that's there in my music, but I also, you know, the quality, we're always trying to get the recording quality better, and, you know, things like that. So if it's an update, hopefully it's a, you know, hopefully it means a good thing for them to say that, but it's all kind of like, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think when somebody says you're like Grand Funk in Boston, I think they mean it as a compliment.
Yeah, no, I know. Thanks. I love Grand Funk too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes, you know, I mean, again, it's like, you know, we're really getting a glimpse into your world as a maker, which is great. Sometimes you just do what you do. I mean, I know the books that I've put out, nobody asked me to do any of those stories, you know.
Yeah.
I had an idea for a while back to do a Moriarty, a graphic novel about Professor Moriarty, and I hadn't published anything before, really. And so I sent it out, and then we got to deal with Image Comics, and it turns out like nobody had done a Professor Moriarty comic before. So I was like, hey, it was a great idea. I'm like, oh, I was just doing what I wanted to do, and it just turned out to serve
right.
which was really nice,
And that's great when that happens. I love that,
Yeah.
when it actually comes out the way that you want it to come out.
Yeah, because if you're making quality work, it comes out well. It doesn't really matter, if the market was expecting it or not.
Exactly. Sometimes. And it'll stand 10 years later or whatever too, And that's what I see happening now, actually, more with my old band Mother Superior than, the Grand Funk comments we were talking about. I actually see now that we get called more like an underground band of the time, which is way cooler. Once we got with Henry Rollins too, we got this punk thing thrown on it. And then Wayne Kramer from the MC5 produced one of our records too. And that was the best because, it went from like 70s butt rock to like, Iggy and the Stooges or whatever, So that was, but I like to keep it reckless. And then for the solo stuff, I really like to touch on soul, not necessarily soul music, but, those same feelings that you get when you hear, Smokey or George Jones. To me, that's the same thing. It's that feeling. And that's why they're usually sad songs. So most of my solo stuff ends up being a little more emotive, but that's I like that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, when I first got Now Playing, the first track on there, I was just thinking, well, this sounds like, this reminds me of Elton John. Like 70s Elton, for sure. And I could see that I know you're a big Elton fan, right?
I'm a huge Elton fan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's also a very hard thing to be able to put through in your music because it's hard. How else do you salute Elton John without sounding like him, But on the other hand, there's lyrics too, which Bernie Taupin, to me, is one of the best, and that has always influenced my lyric writing too. Just kind of plain and simple stories that, aren't pretentious. Well, sometimes. He did write We Built the City on Rock and Roll, but we won't hold that against him. Actually, the lyrics aren't that bad. Maybe that line is terrible, but the rest of the lyrics are kind of top in quality. It's just that song and the production just ruins the whole thing. Anyway, back to Elton.
Well with it though.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I wish I had one of those. Come on, Bernie, write me an embarrassing one.
There you go.
But I love that kind of stuff. I love songwriters and the guys from Squeeze, and like I said, Todd Rundgren earlier. Those are some of. I love REM. So it's hard to be in a hard rock band and get your REM influence out. Maybe you might be able to make a reference, but to actually have some of those, and I'm not talking about sounding like REM, I just mean, something easy that I can play 12 string on or put an organ on it, because you can't really, I remember in the Mother Superior days, especially, we were such a raw, energetic band that whenever we tried to do something different, they were like, well, no, what's going on? It's kind of like Motorhead. If you're in that, Motorhead can't, do a song with, Lemmy singing with the orchestra, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
power ballad.
Maybe they should have. That would have been good, actually.
Yeah.
but the fans wouldn't want it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Any kind of those kind of metal bands, they're expected to just kick your ass, And I love, like I said, I love that too. So I'm just happy that I get the best of both worlds. And then, on the side, to be able to sing harmony songs with Pearl and, to visit that side, the Pearl thing is interesting for me too, because I know her voice, so I try to come up with things that are interesting and things that we haven't done before.
Well, tell us about Pearl in that band, like how that came about and what kind of music you're making with Pearl.
Okay, it came about because we met her through Scott Ian, who was coming to Rollins Band and Mother Superior shows for years. I would see him in the crowd. I would give him advanced demo CDs, like, oh, we got a record coming out, you know. So we always kept in touch. And I knew that Pearl was a singer. And then she just asked one night at a party when we first, maybe, I don't want to say the first time we met her, maybe the second or third, but she just said she was, you know, going to make a solo record and would we be interested in writing songs with her. And she asked the whole band, Mother Superior. And she always says there was a bit of hesitation from us. But I always look at it as like, for me, that's what I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to write songs. When I came to California, I'd been in bands in high school and I was into it, but I loved all kinds of music. So I wanted to see what I could do and different, you know, if I had a ballad, if I had a ballad, I'd love to do a ballad. So then you get in a band. Then I came to California and joined a band. So all of a sudden you're, you know, back in it again. But where was I? Pearl, and to, you know, so for me, her asking was like, thank you. I would love to, you know, but maybe with the dudes, it was a bit of a boys club, or, you know, when you're in a band, you're kind of like, you can't play with anybody else. Nobody can come in the circle. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like, yeah. I remember those days of somebody saying, hey, will you play a solo on my recording? And the guys in the band, like, we don't do that. You know, it was like a camaraderie gang thing, you know? Oh. So same thing. I think that working with Pearl, like, opened my eyes to see that I can do other things, as well as working with Daniel too. You know, it kind of made me see a way out. And not that I was looking for a way out of Mother Superior, but maybe I was. You know, we made 10 records and there wasn't a whole lot more to say without, you know, repeating or, you know, changing so much that it wasn't the same band anymore. And, you know, didn't hang. You're friends for the first 5 years, and then the next 5 years, you see each other so much, you just don't want to hang. So you're just not, you know, coming over at night. You're not listening to music together anymore, and everybody's, you know, got different ideas about what they want something to sound like. So working with other people like that, for me, just, it's like, what do you need? And, you know, and we do it two ways. Pearl comes up with some things. She'll have a chorus in her mind or something, and I'll put the music together, because, you know, it's more of like an a cappella. I'm hearing this song in my head. So I try to find the right chords for that. And then a lot of times I just have her voice in my mind. And if I have, you know, if something comes to me and I feel like, oh man, Pearl would kill that. So I always put those aside for her. And then I just hum, maybe have a chorus, you know, of just a hook line or something. And for the rest, I just sing bullshit, which is funny because she, a lot of times, takes my recordings, and, you know, if I go, she'll say, like, I was waiting outside. Like, she'll, you know, base it on my vowels and stuff, you know. So it's funny. Or sometimes yeah. So we do it both. We do it like that, you know. And it's fun, because if she's really excited about something that I've come up with, then she does the lyrics and has to finish it. So I just kick back, you know. That's a different way for me too, because I'm always there slaving until the very end on the last line. Is that good enough? Is that too Gene Simmons? You know, that's the hard part about writing rock and roll songs, because you can't be too smart. You can't talk about, you know, politics and the war if you're AC/DC or something. So yeah, and you just don't want to write those, you know, teenage lyrics either, you know. You know, the sexy mama stuff that, you know, Gene Simmons, again, 80s Gene Simmons. Yeah.
So, and Pearl, when you're with that band, it's kind of a more maybe country fried sound, right?
Yes.
Southern rock. Yeah. Yeah.
And that same thing when the latest band was being put together, you know, we have a great bunch of guys, and there's a pedal steel guitar player, and there's always keyboards, and then there's 2 guitars. And because I sing and write the songs and everything, and Zach Throne is the other guitarist, and he is, you know, so great, and his solos are just, he just does it, you know. I'm more of like Chuck Berry, you know, Keith Richards solo thing, blues based or whatever. And, you know, Zach can do that too, but Zach has that other kind of like feel that whenever I play with Pearl, I just say, you play the solos. I'm just going to play rhythm guitar and sing. So to me, that's, you know, I've always been in a trio. So I've always been driving the guitar by myself, you know, so to be able to just like strum and to hit a note without, you know, fighting myself. It's another lesson.
Yeah, I know. I've noticed that. I watched you. I actually covered the last show Pearl did before quarantine, and I'll link to that on my website. If you're watching this on my website, I'll put a link to that. And it was a wonderful show. But I watched your live stream at the Whiskey early during quarantine. You did a live stream at the Whiskey with Motor Sister.
Yes, thanks.
So yeah, absolutely. And is that available somewhere? Is that
there's a link for it? Yes.
Okay, so I'll put that on the website too, so folks can watch that. And like, so Motor Sister, you're lead vocalist and you're playing lead guitar, but with Pearl, you're playing like you know, rhythm, and you're singing, you know, these skyrocketing harmonies with her. So like you're filling different roles in those bands, but you know, obviously the skill is apparent no matter what you're doing. You don't have to be doing a flowery solo to see that Jim Wilson knows what he's doing on stage.
Thank you. Sure. And you know, again, it's all part of I don't think about it until I talk about it. You know what I mean? And I just look at it as making music with my friends, and between Phil and then Pearl's band and Motor Sister, they're all my friends, you know, so, and Daniel, of course. So it's different these days, because back in the early days when you would hustle, say you try to make money, it would be like, oh, I'm playing with Joe Santos on Monday and Roger whatever on Tuesday night, and then Wednesday I got a gig with, you know, and it's not really heart and soul gigs.
Yeah,
it's more to get that couple $100 for the week. But Motor Sister especially, it always feels like somebody's missing when we're together, because it's, you know, we're a 5-piece band, but it just feels like we all know each other so well that, and then on top of that, we plug in and play, and it just has a sound, you know. The first record that we did was all Mother Superior songs. Huge story behind that with Scott's birthday party, and he picked out his favorite Mother Superior songs. But this one, again, is all fresh, brand new material. So that's really what I'm looking for. I had some time when we finished recording the first record. You have that, seems like a year before it comes out, you know. The record company puts a release date on it, and you're like, you know, July 27th. What am I going to do until then? So a lot of times that's when I try to write and store riffs up. And I probably gave Scotty in 30, 40 little demos of songs for this new record. And same thing though, I felt like I would bounce them off Scott rather than give everybody everything, because then it just gets real complicated. And if Scott wasn't reacting, that wouldn't have been good, you know what I mean? So as soon as I started coming up with some things and the list kept getting bigger and bigger, it was like, finally, we got an album. And then, you know, hey, come over and let's play acoustics in my kitchen and go over this before we go record. And then I go over there and like, I got 2 more. You want to check them out? And both of those made the record. So, you know, I love that stuff. I love the idea of, if someone wants to hear some music, then I give them some good music, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I know you guys were squeezing that session, Motor Sister, you were squeezing in the sessions right before quarantine.
The last day of our session was the day that they told everybody to go home and stock up on toilet paper. It was that day. And we did that stuff at Dave Grohl's studio. We were there that whole week, and it was amazing. I don't think we get to go back to do the vocals there because he's not open yet. And we want to get it done, which is fine. No, all the music was recorded there, and I used Dave's Les Paul the whole time. I mean, we were told they had the guys there handing us guitars, so I was just like, give me the best Les Paul you got, you know. I had mine there too, but I could play that one anytime. So it was amazing. The vibe in that place was just like you know, huge room with the Sound City board. And then, you know, then COVID happened, and then we're all still trying to keep busy. And Scott already had a Mr. Bungle record that is either coming out tomorrow or Friday. So he already had that project, and that's coming out, you know, and he's bummed that they can't go play shows. I mean, I felt that way about Sparks, my friends in Sparks, because they put out a record in June, I think. And I just thought, man, you put a new record out and you can't do anything except make these little stupid videos of, you know, here's me at home, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm happy we got those things, but it's just, you know, it's not the same. And then Joey Vera has a new Armored Saint record that's coming out this week too, I think, or very soon. So everybody already had those things as well. So obviously with this, those get pushed back a little bit, which in turn pushes the next thing back. And, you know, so to me, it was like, well, we don't have to wait for Dave. Let's get these vocals done and get this record done, because the sooner we have it done, at least. It's been so frustrating because we record almost everything live with Motor Sister, and we re-sing the stuff, but I sing just to guide the band while we're recording. And at the end of the day, none of that stuff stays. It's just the music we're going for. So we've been getting all these rough mixes of the instrumental tracks with no vocals. And you listen to it one time and you're like, I just want to hear the song, because, you know, you can't play it for anybody because you can't explain what the hook of the song is or whatever. So it's coming. It's coming.
You'll get there, man. I know.
Yeah.
And then people are like, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's something we hadn't really talked about before. Well, we did a big interview. I did a big interview with you for Bass Musician magazine early in this year, and that was when, and a big shout out to my friend Alex Calise, who got that set up, made that connection for us. Yeah, so thank you, Alex. But that was really cool, because that's when you and Daniel and Heavy Sun, you were playing at Zebulon at Water Village every week. You know, prepping that album and getting ready for the tour that's, you know, is now postponed, but so we were, you know, hanging out and talking at Zebulon a lot, and so I was able to get this piece together for you. And we talked.
It was so much fun to go every week. It was so much fun to meet people like you every week, and, you know, when you kept seeing the same people come back and you knew that something was happening. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but
it's good. You're right.
I missed those nights so much. Yeah.
That was like a summer camp moment or something. On period, you know, and it was.
It just kept getting more and more crowded every week, and, you know.
It's like I could, you know, I'm like, I'm trying to get photos of you guys, and it's such a small room. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to show up 3 hours early. And I would show up 3 hours early, and it was still insanely packed. It was like, here's where I am this week, you know.
They put me right by the bathroom door, so every time somebody comes out of the bathroom, I have to, like, leave out. It's crazy.
Part of the quirks of that time, but yeah, that was a neat time, and I got into a lot of your background in that interview, and I'm going to link to that on the website here. And I also got to talk to Daniel, and Daniel dished on you, but it was all nice stuff, so it was okay.
Yeah. Oh no, he said you were great too. He's very particular with interviews and interviewers. Yeah. But he complimented you which was nice, you know.
Oh wow.
You must have asked him some good stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it was a nice conversation. Yeah, I approached him.
He has a running joke that every interview starts with, "Tell me about Peter Gabriel." Like, you know, some guy from some other country. Like, it always goes to that past stuff, you know. Yeah. Oh, you have a new album? Oh, that's nice. When you worked with Eno, you know, everything.
I know when I talked to him, you know, I approached him at Zebulon, and I was like, hey, would you want to give me a quote about Jim for this article? And he's like, well, why don't I give you my number and we'll link up on the phone. That's how I like to do it. And it was really, really generous and nice of him. So I had some questions prepped to talk about you. And then he said he told me, he's like, hey, would you like to talk about, what we have going on with the new tour and stuff? And I'm like, well, yeah, would you like to talk? Because he had just had the soundtrack for Red Dead Redemption game come out, and you were on that album. And and I have friends that have websites that are all the genre, comics and video games. So I'm like, I had 10 questions.
Right.
In case we went there. So we had a nice chat about him working on Red Dead Redemption, and I know his discography so well. I was able to jump all around and ask him specific questions about his stuff.
Good. That's what you like, somebody who knows what they're talking about. Yeah. Not just talk about Bob Dylan to get info about Bob Dylan. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's that a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, because I love the albums that he's done with U2 and Peter Gabriel and all that. But I also really
me too. I mean,
his albums.
And he loves talking about that too. It's just more just the people that just go for the throat with just he knows what they're going for. Right.
Yeah. But that was a nice time, that Zebulon time, and I got to interview you, and I got to interview Daniel, and I got 2 articles out of it, and that was really cool. And then I was just doing write-ups on you guys.
I wonder how they're doing over there. I mean, I'm sure they have some outdoor dining right now, but probably not much music.
They're doing streaming events, and they've been doing fundraisers and stuff. I'm on their email.
Oh, good.
So I've been seeing they're keeping it. They're keeping it alive. Hopefully, you guys will go back and play there next year.
I can't wait. I know.
Yeah. There's one thing in your background that we didn't really talk about before, and I wanted to ask you about working with on that tour with Emmylou Harris.
Yes.
So that was 2014, and it was the re-release of Wrecking Ball. I guess, was that the 20th anniversary of Wrecking Ball?
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a lot of people watching probably know this, but Wrecking Ball was a great album by Emmylou Harris that Daniel Lanois produced and played and sang on. And then in 2014, Jim participated in the tour for the re-release of the remaster of the album. And that was very frustrating for me because I was putting out my books with Image Comics at the time, and I had been called to go to a Sherlock Holmes convention to basically be the keynote speaker at the Sherlock Holmes convention. And
well, there you go.
When you guys played at the Wiltern, and I tried to work it out because I wanted to go see that show so bad, and I missed it.
Wow.
I'm still like, oh.
That was a great interview, and I was so excited to play the Wiltern. That was the only time I just was to actually be backstage at the Wiltern was and actually that was. Again, I can't say it was the first time. It was one of the first times that I talked to Phil Jones, was backstage at the Emmylou show. I think we met in Canada once when he was playing with Peggy Young, and we talked for a second. But backstage at Emmylou was definitely a moment of like, hey, I like what you do. I like what you do. Man, it was, I still, and it's like Daniel has said, she could call anytime, you know what I mean? And I hope that it happens again. Mm-hmm. I played with her. I played with her a bunch of times before the tour. She would show up, and Daniel would, a couple Canadian shows we did, big festivals in Canada, Daniel shows, and he would ask her to come and do a couple songs, and he'd fly her in. And so I had those experiences. I played Carnegie Hall with her one of my first years with Daniel.
Wow.
He did a show at Carnegie Hall, and Emmylou came out and sang with us. So, yeah, and I would always run into her that way, but I never knew, I knew she knew me by sight, but it's still exciting when Emmylou Harris knows your name and counts on you to, for parts and for lyrics. And there was one night we played in Europe somewhere, and we were doing Every Grain of Sand, which we played 1,000,000 times, and
it's a good song.
she's strumming, and she backs away from the microphone, just blanking on the words, and looks over at me, and I knew it. Like, I don't always know it, but I knew it right then, and I spit it out to her, and then she smiled, and everybody cheered. It was like, got past that one. But it was incredible traveling in a bus with her, eating meals, and just, we had dinner at her house with Daniel's mom was there, and in Nashville, and she's just so nice. And then a few years ago, they had a tribute show to her, The Life and Songs of Emmylou Harris, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. And, we were part of that show. We were her band that night. It was everybody, Mavis Staples, Sheryl Crow, Vince Gill, Chris Christopherson. It was incredible everywhere you turned. And we were the only guys that got to play with Emmylou. Played a couple songs with her singing, and then she watched everybody else sing her songs just as a member of the audience. But that was such a magical night. And you know, her assistant guy, he's been with her for 30 plus years. Maple is a record collector, so when we were on the road together, it was like we check into the hotel and he's like, what time are we going to such and such records? It's like, I'm there, let's go. So my record collection was ridiculous that tour. And you know, it's just to be able to sing with her. And we were lucky because, you know, I didn't play on the original record, and Steve Nister, the drummer, didn't play on the original record, but we were touring with Daniel and we were so tight that he figured, I don't want to play with a 10-piece band of bozos. Let's make this 4-piece the best that we can, you know. And we had 3-part harmonies. So with that and with Daniel's sound, and Emmylou plays rhythm guitar, so it was just a full sound all the time. And it was a nice, really relaxed way to play music, because every band I play in is like, check 1, 2, testing, you know what I mean? And they just kind of ease in and, you know, go into a song. And like Pancho and Lefty, we played every night, and it was just me and Emmylou singing that one. And I would just, every night she would kind of look over and like give me a smile, and you're just like, man, this.
You're like, oh, she smiled at me.
You know, I learned so much from her, just like, you know, vocal tips, like always eat Lay's regular salted potato chips before you go on stage, because it helps your voice. I don't know if that's true, but she eats them.
I've heard that kind of before. Yeah, like session singers will eat potato chips, and it kind of gets a little crackly edge in there.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It's the stuff when, like, in college choir, like I sang in I was in the music program at my college at UCF in Florida, and you know, when you sang in the choir singing classical music, it's like, do not eat, you know, don't eat chocolate, don't eat potato chips, don't eat it.
Right.
Pop singers break all those rules, you know.
Yeah. I know, like you know, Robin Zander and Cheap Trick is like cigarettes and whiskey. You know what I mean? It's whatever your ritual is. I still don't think that I could eat Lay's potato chips before I go on stage, even if it does help my voice. It's the last thing I want.
Oh, really? That's funny. But you know, from that album, the song, you know, one of the songs you would have performed in the show is "Where Will I Be," and then Daniel wrote that song.
Yes.
On that, and because I know he re-recorded it on his own album, "Here Is What Is." In 2009, that one was released. But that's one of my favorite songs.
I think I'm on that version of that song.
On Daniel's version?
Yeah, on Daniel's version. See, that's the thing too. When I said that, you know, this is Heavy Sun's the first major recording thing. I've done lots of recordings, and I'm here and there on some tracks, you know. But as a full project, or, you know, to be in there from day one to the end, you know, it's the first time that I've seen that, done that. And I can only imagine what went into those records like Wrecking Ball to have been part of that magic, because I see it now. And if I would have been older and hanging around at that time in New Orleans, I would have been there too, you know what I mean? And it would have all made sense. But, you know, we had some great magical moments. I was just thinking about sitting backstage at Massey Hall in Canada. There was a big Daniel tribute show that I get to play bass on the whole show with everybody. And Emmylou sang a couple songs. It was Hal Wilner, who we lost recently. He put the show together, and he asked me to sing Honest Mistake from my first solo album, because Daniel played pedal steel. So I got to sing that song at Massey Hall, and with this great band, amazing band of players. And then we went backstage with Emmylou, and we were singing Gordon Lightfoot songs, you know, and getting drunk, and just, you know, one of those moments where you just sitting on the couch while she's strumming guitar, and you're all laughing and just like, wow, this is amazing, you know. So I love her, and I can't wait to see her and Maple again. I hope it'll be soon.
Wonderful.
You know, I know she's been doing stuff too. She did some virtual stuff in Nashville as well, a little show or something.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, and because you know, we go to San Francisco with Emmylou Harris, and Linda Ronstadt comes to see us play, you know, and you're hanging out backstage with Linda Ronstadt, and I'm wearing these crazy Japanese boots that I got, and she's like, I like your boots. Can I take a picture of it? And it's like, Linda Ronstadt has a picture of my boots on her phone.
That's what's gonna be on the liner notes of the next album, right?
Yes. Or maybe I can get a copy of the photo from her. Just kidding.
Yeah, if you were, you could say Linda Ronstadt took this picture.
Yeah.
If you were around during the Wrecking Ball original recording, though, I think, especially for that track, for the Where Will I Be, you would have been competing with Adam Clayton to be the bassist on that track, maybe. So.
True. I would have been playing Triangle in the background.
There you go. Like, can I just be in the room with Adam and Larry? Is that okay?
Yeah. No, that's true. They dig the Larry's so great too on that stuff.
Have you ever met those guys? You met the U2 guys? I don't know.
I've met Bono and The Edge. I've never met Larry and Adam.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. We went to a U2 show in Canada, Montreal, on a day off, and they asked Daniel to come and play, so we knew that was going to happen. Cool. And then, of course, we got treated royally, and Daniel played one, I think it was one, and it got the big introduction, and during it they played a snippet of The Maker. Bono started singing The Maker, so that was cool too to see that happen. And then we went to the after party, and it was like this big room, and they had food, and everybody was just hanging out and eating. And then Bono and The Edge came out. The Edge said hi, and Bono sat down, and hey, there's a party, you guys want to go? So we all went to this party for the what's his name, the guy that does Cirque du Soleil, the main guy, had a party. And we started this club with Bono, and we go in and giving they're just sitting us down with champagne bottles. Not, no one's paying attention to us, but they know that he's there and it's happening. So, literally there's a velvet rope thing separating us off, and girls are coming up to me and the other guys in the band like, hey guys, and it's like, no, we know what's going on.
You know what you're trying to get to here.
Yeah.
You had you didn't just meet the U2, like you had the rock star experience.
He was so cool. He was so nice. Bono was so nice and talkative. I had a moment with him as we were leaving for the party, and I asked him about Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. Had he ever, I'm a big Thin Lizzy fan, so I just was wondering if they ever had a connection, ran into him. And his answer was no. Adam talked to him, would call him a lot because Adam was their first manager, and he would call Phil to get advice and stuff. So he had kind of had a relationship with Phil. But and then I just remember after talking about that, we walked outside, and I got to see also the madness when they walked outside of the hotel and the people that were waiting. It was just like, oh my God, like you got to deal with that every day of your life. Like, that's crazy. It was just like everybody was just, you could feel everybody's heartbeats just like, boom, 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 boom. And, they push us into a car, and then, those guys are just being asked to sign everything in pictures, and it's freezing cold. And it was a great night. And they were so great. The concert was so great. And I've seen them a bunch of times too, but just, to be there with Daniel was special.
Yeah, that's something. I had another guest on this show. Is an electronica artist named the Sub Theory. He lives in Oxford in the UK, and he was recording up in Dublin, and he had an experience where he met Bono and Edge. He said that they were rowing. He saw them rowing across the river. They were at another studio across the Liffey River, and then he's like, "There's this boat rowing over towards us," and Bono and Edge were in it, and apparently they had to come to the studio where Andy, the Sub Theory, was recording, and they just came over in this boat. And he said they were. He talked to them. He said they were absolutely super nice. And he said that the real measure with them was, he said there was a lady that would go around with a cart delivering tea and snacks to everybody, and he said Bono and Edge treated her like royalty. And he said, I've seen so many people be rude to her, but they just treat her like royalty, and so it
was so cool, because when he sat down at the table where we were eating, obviously Daniel was there, so we had the ease and the respect. So there was no kind of like, he's reaching over and picking off French fries from the plate too, and just like, yeah, so that was a good show, don't you think? You know, it's just very normal and super nice and very hard not to like, you know what I mean? Like there's something there that you just kind of go, there he is, wow, you know. I mean, I've been a fan. I had a buddy in high school that was tuned in since War, and you know, even when War was out, he got the other two from the past, and then watched that growth through the eyes of a super fan too, you know, because when you're friends in school, your friends always like, hey, check out the new, you know, and every time U2 came around, it was just like, man, force, you know. So and that's, you know, of course, the way that I learned Daniel's name. So and those records are just and I've heard so many U2 stories, like great U2 stories, just Daniel talking about the guys, and I can honestly say that he doesn't have anything bad to say about any of them. To him, they're just like, you know, still brothers, and just goes right back into it whenever they talk. Oh, I might have told you this story before, but if I did, you can edit it out. But
perfect, let's hear it.
Perfect example was maybe we were doing something with Kyle Crane, and we stopped to get some food in LA, and something was on the radio, and we were talking about rock singers, and Daniel said, Jim, who do you think is like the best rock singer, like right now, not of all time, like the best rock singer right now? I said, that's hard. I think Chris Cornell just died too. It was like, you know, sometime around that time. And I said, I might have to say Bono. And because, I mean, who delivers better than that? I mean, there's a couple guys that are great singers. Maybe you might say Sammy Hagar or something, but come on, you know what I mean? Like, who do you want to sing to you, Bono or Sammy Hagar? I love Sammy Hagar. I love it. I'm just saying, you know, it's so passionate. So anyway, we're sitting there, and I said Bono, and Daniel goes, yeah, you're right. And he goes, I'm going to text him and tell him. And as far as I know, he's sitting there saying, we think you're the best rock singer. So I've had lots of moments like that where it's just been like there's another funny story. There's another funny one. I was at Daniel's on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and we rehearsed for something that was coming up. We did a rehearsal for something that was coming up. And he said, do you want to come back on Saturday? We'll do it again. So I think I was there Wednesday, and I said, okay, great. See you Saturday. I come back on Saturday morning. I'm like, how's it going, Dan? He's like, oh, man, crazy couple days. The other day, my friend came over, and he brought Steven Tyler with him. And he was playing drums, and he played Dream On the piano, and he was just hanging out, and it was, like, so great. I said, holy shit, that's amazing. He goes, yeah, and yesterday Dylan shows up at the door wanting me to hear his new Standards record and see what I think of it. I'm like, wait, so I'm missing for 2 days and I miss Steven Tyler and Bob Dylan? It's crazy.
Insane. But,
everybody, Daniel, you know, everybody has such a respect for him because, you know, of his music and just what he's done. And it, you know, even when we did Black Dub, it was, you know, Robert Plant saying, can I just be a member of Black Dub and forget about, you know, all this other stuff, you know? So it's such a treat to be part of that camp. And
yeah, it certainly is. Talk a little bit about Black Dub. That's another thing we had. Here.
I got a low battery, but am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Okay, all right. Maybe we should wrap it. Are you running?
Okay.
Low?
It's at 20%.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, maybe just a little bit more. I like to ask you a little bit about Black Dub because we hadn't really talked about that before. And that was the first time that I saw Daniel playing. It's the first time I ever saw you live as well. It was in 2011.
Oh, wow.
It was at House of Blues Anaheim. My wife and I went.
Oh wow, yeah.
Wonderful show. So
Blues Anaheim, was that the one that Daryl Johnson was at?
Yeah, as well. Carol was there, and Rocco opened for you guys.
Oh yes. It was weird for me because, you know, I wasn't on the record, and I was way into the record, and I was way into the band, and then all of a sudden I was, you know, asked to take that place, not to take the place of Daryl, but basically to support Trixie's role, you know. And I thought she was, and again, I played with Trixie a few times when Daniel first he's known her since she was a kid, but when she started singing, he brought her around to a few things, and we did some things together. So I was no stranger, and of course Brian Blade. But it was interesting because, you know, I had to catch up a lot, not only playing bass for the first time, but trying to fill Daryl Johnson's bass shoes. I mean, listen to the bass on that record. You know what I mean? It's incredible bass lines. And Daryl spent a few days with me going over stuff, because some things were just like, how are you doing that? You know, and he would actually show me, and I would pick things up. And eventually it got to where it was more like whatever I wanted to do, but I was really trying to make it as great as the records were. And we traveled everywhere. The worst part about it was, you know, we had a huge run of shows in America and Europe, and maybe 2 weeks into the American tour, the label went under. They were part of RCA. It was Jive and BMG, and they just got sucked into the BMG thing. So there was no more actual Jive records. So all these guys that were coming around saying like, you know, were gone. They didn't have Jive anymore, and then we didn't have, you know, and the record was hard to find, and you know, but you know, no fault of the band. It was just, you know, record company politics, and that happens sometimes. You go for a bigger thing, you know, as an artist, you think, I'm gonna wait and not do this by myself because I need the support from whatever. And then you think that you're gonna get support, and it just gets swallowed by, you know, you become a tax write-off. And going back to my early band, Mother Superior, it was so frustrating in those days because we never knew how this is ever going to work out. But at the same time, I'm glad that we didn't get signed to, say, Capitol or MCA and put out a record that they didn't care about. Because a lot of those bands that got those record deals couldn't get a record deal again because, oh, Capitol already tried those guys and it didn't work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and then you would see like those, you know, I had buddies that I work with in the record stores that got deals before me, and you would think like, wow, they made it. And then I go to Out of the Closet, the thrift store down the street, and I see my buddy's CDs in the, you know, for 25 cents or whatever. So I'm glad that that never happened, that there was like, you know, that record company push and pull. And then even if you did make a first record that did okay, then they're going to make the second record. They're going to make all the decisions about that. So we never had that either. Yeah. And Henry Rollins said that to me in the early days. He said about Mother Superior, you guys are laughing because you own all your own stuff. You own everything. And at that time I thought, it sucks. I can't, no one's doing anything with it. It's just sitting in my closet, you know? Yeah. But now it makes so much more sense, you know, because that, you know, that's my label. That all that Mother Superior stuff, I have a, you know, a catalog of stuff that still does okay, you know, and keeps me going.
Cool.
It's ridiculous, actually.
Yeah. So,
but if you gave me 30 seconds, any song from Rollins Band or Mother Superior, I could pull it off, and you know.
Okay.
Maybe not the lyrics, but you know, the riffs and everything.
How many songs do you have in your head right now?
What's that?
How many songs do you have in your head? How many songs can you execute right now?
You know, I've been going over to Daniel's and playing piano, and then before I go to Phil Jones. So again, I have different like things of stuff, and I think about, I mean, just all the time. And then if there's anything new, like there might be something new that comes up. I have so many voice memos on my phone. That's really all I do. And I've been trying not to play instruments. I might have told you that before too. I'm trying not to play instruments when I write. I'm trying to write in my head because the original ideas are always just transmitted in my head. No, I'm not holding a guitar. Right. So then I started to feel like as soon as I pick up a guitar, I'm taking that original idea, and then I'm going, you know, trying things, and I just let them go now. If I get the first idea, I just let it simmer and forget about it, and then I go back to it, and in my mind I go, where should it go? It should go here. You know, it needs a big chorus, or it needs a little something to separate it. So, you know, and of course I end up picking up the guitar to make sure I can play it and sing it or whatever, but I'm trying to let them write themselves. And trust my inner ear rather than finding piano is fun because I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So if I'm plonking around on the piano, I can find some interesting things like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. But guitar, I know so well, it's hard for me to surprise myself.
Yeah.
It's kind of why I've always liked like Stevie Wonder and things like that, because his combinations, and you know, if you think about it, you got 10 fingers when you're playing the keyboards. You got 5 fingers when you're playing the guitar, or you got 4 fingers when you're playing the guitar.
Yeah.
So you just can't get that C note with that weird chord, you know, without keyboards. So that comes into play. But then when it comes to like Motor Sister, I just wait for that, you know, if I'm driving or something, you hear that guitar riff and sometimes it turns out to be, wait, that's track 4 on Back in Black. But you know, sometimes you get good ones, you know.
Cool. Yeah, man. Wow. This has just been like, it's all making all the time with you and your head and your world. And I'm really enjoying
Thanks.
it. Enjoyed
Thank
this
you.
conversation.
Thanks very much.
So we can wrap it up before your phone dies, but I do want to, you do have an upcoming album with Motor Sister coming up, and also Heavy Sun coming up, and you have your book coming up. So if you could just let us know kind of a basic timeline or whatever, and about.
Well, we were talking about, you know, with Metal Blade, with Motor Sister, we were talking about the beginning of next year. Hopefully we can still pull off something now. I would love to say March, but for us to like record everything in November and then have everything mixed and artwork and everything, I'm probably thinking June at the earliest, you know, and then book will follow that, and then the new record with Phil Jones will follow that also, because, you know, we've been putting out lots of stuff in the interim between these Motor Sisters, so wait for that to, I just feel like people need to hear some rock and roll first before they hear my, you know, really out there stuff. And Heavy Sun, there's a single coming any day now, like I've got the promo material from Daniel, and, you know, everything's set to go. The first single was Under the Heavy Sun, that's the name of it. And you know, I think they're going to put out a track or two before the album comes out, so it'll be a couple singles. And there's a video which I haven't seen yet, but I'm told that it's good for Under the Heavy Sun also.
All right, so we'll be on the lookout for the new project.
It's all coming.
Sister, Heavy Sun. We'll be looking for your book, which is Occupation Rock and Roll, which is
Occupation Rock and Roll.
Stories.
It's a fun book. It's just you don't have to read it from front to back. It's just stories about me coming to Hollywood and some of the weird music stuff that I've seen through the years. Just, you know, funny stories. You know, I worked at Tower Records for years, so I met everyone from Bill Murray to, you know, Eddie Murphy. And I, you know, just one example, I was one of my first days of working there. Mike Tyson came into the store, and I saw him shopping around. He was looking in the cassettes, and we were told to, like, you know, go help the customers or whatever. So I said, I'll go talk to Mike Tyson. He's got a tuxedo on. He's in his prime. I mean, it's like he is Mike Tyson at that point.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, do you need some help? And he said, do you have Rick James' Greatest Hits on tape? I said, yeah, we should. And I looked up, and it was like right there, you know. And I go, here it is. He went, ah! And he grabbed me, and we waltzed down the aisles a couple times. Like, and I was just cracking up. So I almost called my book Dancing with Tyson, but I
man. So
just little stories like that. This guy from Delaware shows up in Hollywood trying to make a little music, you know, and see how far I can get him, and just all the people I've run into and legends that I'm, you know, proud to say that I, you know, shook Ike Turner's hand and I thanked him for inventing rock and roll. You know, sometimes when I see those people, my mind just goes like, and it's getting less and less obviously these days, not too, because there's not a lot of people left that I really want to meet, you know. I mean, I'm sure there's still a lot, but when I first came to Hollywood, and especially like in the early 90s and stuff, it was like movie stars and musicians everywhere. Like it was a different thing, you know. And I don't think it was as obviously pre-internet, so there's not as much people trying to get camera, film, and everything, you know. It was just people could go be themselves more, and that's why it was always surprising when you would run into, you know, Tony Bennett. Can you call me a cab? You know, just things like that. So just me being obsessed by Hollywood and quickly getting into the, like, this is the place to be.
Cool, man.
All right. You know, I'll send you the book if you want to read it. I mean,
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's that?
Read it. I absolutely
okay.
read it. Absolutely.
Excellent. I think, I mean, you know, it'll just be in some, I have one form of it. I think it's one form that the publisher did where it's just like all runs. But I'll see what I have.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah, and whenever it's whenever it's free and clear to talk about it, I'll write up about it on the site, or you can come on and talk about it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Come back on and talk about it. So anytime you got anything going on, and if you have anything special, you know, this is like I always at the end want to end the show with kind of a maker's moment. If you have anything special that you make over the next week or two, next few days, that some small thing, a photo, a video, maybe a snippet of it, and you want to send it over to me, I'll post it for you and share it with the crowd here. So
I'm going to Daniel's tomorrow. Maybe I'll do a little piano song or something.
Oh, great. Yeah. If you want to send that over, I'll post it for folks to.
It'll be dark because that room is so dark right now. Like, you know, and there's lights and stuff, but like, I don't know where anything is. So most of the time I just go in there and play in the dark.
That sounds cool. Yeah. So that sounds like the right mood. And I think that Daniel would approve of that. Cool, man. All right. Well, Jim Wilson.
Radio Rewind's on tonight at 8. My radio show's coming right up. It's just a repeat of the Saturday one, but you know, it's so much fun.
This is Wednesday. So so you aired that on Wednesday at what time?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. And then what you're on Saturday at midnight as well.
Saturday at midnight is the Vinyl Shelf. Yeah, the other show. There it is.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Yeah. Like I said, Radio Rewind's just more like, I don't DJ. It's just more old radio shows. I host it, but the Vinyl Shelf, I get to play everything I want to play. This, like tonight is Casey Kasem, so he's playing the top 40 of 74 or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little bit different, but I enjoy it. I love sharing it with people, having those records that sometimes I'll play those radio things here at home and go, these are so fucking rare. No one ever hears this stuff. And so it's been great for me to have that outlet to, instead of posting stuff online, like bootleggy and saying, hey, download this if you want. I actually have like a place that people can listen, you know?
Cool, man. Well, it's a wonderful service you're providing there.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you, and we'll talk again soon. You know, thank you so much.
Jim, thank you for joining us here on Makers, man. Until next time, you take care. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Everybody.
All right.
Thank you.